Coming up on UCF Nightly News, the election results are in, and your senates are now taking office. We find out how different campaigning strategies affected the outcome.
President Hitt gave his annual State of the University address this week. We'll find out what students hope to hear and how the President Hitt feels about student loan debt.
Planned Parenthood has found itself in deep controversy lately, especially with one lawmaker discussing defunding the organization. We'll find out how students are reacting and if they could be affected negatively if the defunding occurs.
And later we'll have an update on what the weather is looking like for the rest of the week.
Nightly News starts now.
Good afternoon and welcome to Nightly News. I'm Matthew Johnson.
And I'm Brett West. Today is Friday, October 2nd, 2015.
Your new senators are now in office. Did you get a chance to meet them during the campaign? Nightly News reporter Dominique Del Corso followed the elections this week and spoke to some of your new senators after the results were announced.
During the campaign this week, you probably saw these three things in front of the Student Union. The Election Commission Voting Center, Jake Millich, obviously, and the Black and Gold ticket. Nightly News spoke to Black and Gold ticket leader Megan Kircher to figure out how and why these students came together.
It's easier to campaign for all of us together than it is just campaign individually because when you have signs for 1,000 different names, it gets confusing. So we're all pretty like-minded in that we care about the students.
The Black and Gold ticket has been a part of the SGA elections for about 4 years now and usually has the highest success rate. Last year, that success rate was 97%. The Black and Gold ticket's biggest competitor in the College of Business, Jake Millich, talked to Nightly News immediately after the results were read.
I got the most votes out of any senator. I got my seat, and yeah, awesome. Went really well.
Millich said his in-your-face campaign strategy was the reason for his huge success.
It was a tough fight. I was out here all 3 days. But we made it happen. It was just about logistics.
Remember Corey Marcoux from last week? After speaking to Nightly News, he and two others teamed up with Jake Millich, and guess what? They won.
And we all had very similar platforms and very similar ideas of just getting new voices in the Senate.
The four candidates who teamed up gained the top 4 seats in the College of Business. This gave them 4 out of the 8 available seats, knocking off half of the Black and Gold ticket's candidates for the College of Business. This was the only college where the Black and Gold ticket did not have the advantage. In Orlando, Dominique Del Corso, UCF, Nightly News.
As for voter turnout, it went up from last year's Senate election, jumping from 4 to 6%. Assistant Election Supervisor Whitney Barnes said this makes her excited about the future of voter turnout.
President Hitt delivered his annual State of the University address this week.
And Nightly News was there, and they found out what his plans were for the university.
Mariah Nava now joins us to tell us what topics were covered during the address.
President Hitt tried out a new format this year. Instead of the formal speech he normally gives, he sat down for a Q&A. Hitt talked about several topics, including UCF's downtown expansion and hiring more faculty. Nightly News spoke to students before they attended the event and asked what they were hoping to hear Hitt talk about. Many of them had the same answer in common: student debt. During the event, students were able to ask Hitt questions. One of those questions was in reference to student debt, and Hitt says only about half of UCF students graduate with debt.
Our tuition and fees are low by national standards. That doesn't mean that if you don't have the money, it is easy to deal with it.
To view more of President Hitt's State of the University address, visit our website at www.nightlynews.ucf.edu.
And now Lindsay Gruzinas joins us for our first forecast.
It's been a rainy week, Lindsay. How's the weather going to look for today and into the weekend?
Well, this morning started off a little rainy and overcast, but it started to clear up throughout the day. It's supposed to be a high of 86 with a low of 68. It's supposed to be a little bit, a few showers this afternoon, so just bring a umbrella, nothing too uncommon for Florida. This weekend's supposed to be sunny and kind of in the mid 80s and a lows in the 60s. So just make sure you bring a jacket wherever you go at night. It's supposed to be really nice. And if you want to go out this weekend, you can also go out to the beach. Just be careful with the rip current and things like that. But otherwise, the weather is supposed to be pretty nice. Brett?
Thanks, Lindsay. The student group Voices of Planned Parenthood is responding to possibly of Planned Parenthood being defunded. Following one group lawmakers' discussion to cut funding, the group hosted the first ever National Pink Out Day. There was a lot of pink students who braved through the rain to sign their banner. President of Voice of Planned Parenthood, Taylor Gautier, says they hope the group would raise awareness on the issue and explain how defunding of Planned Parenthood would affect some people negatively.
It would honestly be just such a travesty for people who rely on Planned Parenthood for their health care, for birth control, for contraception, for STI testing, for cancer testing. It would be a real devastation to people who rely on their services for their health care.
And because Planned Parenthood may have to be defunded, you may have noticed people are talking about it on social media. In July, a video was released by an anti-abortion group showing Planned Parenthood officials allegedly negotiating to sell fetal tissue.
And soon lawmakers will be making decisions about defunding the health centers. Brooke Savage tells us what this will mean for students who use Planned Parenthood.
I currently go to them for my birth control. I've been going for about 2-3 years now, and they're always great. They get me my birth control when I need it.
Kellen McElhatton is not alone. A study by Planned Parenthood says 1 in 5 women use its health centers at one point in their lifetime. But if Planned Parenthood loses funding, the cuts will hit more than just health services. I'm at the Planned Parenthood on University, one of their busiest locations in Central Florida. And Anna Escamani, the spokeswoman for Planned Parenthood, says if they lost funding on a federal level, they'll lose resources for education programs that run out of this office. These programs teach the youth in the community about reproductive health, consent, and healthy relationships.
So for UCF students specifically, us being able to provide these education programs is incredibly beneficial to ensuring that they can finish their college degrees, that they don't have to worry about, expensive charges for birth control.
But one student, Lauren Abel, doesn't like some of the services Planned Parenthood offers.
I'm against Planned Parenthood because I'm Catholic and I don't support abortion, so I'm pro-life. And I believe that abortion is killing an innocent child.
If Planned Parenthood does lose funding, Escamani says its prices will not go up. But she does want to stress one thing to the community.
We're not going anywhere. Our doors are going to remain open.
In Orlando, Brooke Savage, UCF Nightly News.
Each year, lawmakers must decide what they will fund for various agencies, and yesterday was the start of the new fiscal year. For now, they have to come to a temporary decision to fund government, to prevent a government shutdown. A final decision on Planned Parenthood will be made by December.
Umpqua Community College is continuing to mourn the lives lost after the tragic shooting on campus Thursday. The mass shooting occurred in Roseburg, Oregon. Douglas County Sheriff John Hanlon says the shooter killed over 10 students and injured several others. The gunman was killed by law enforcement during the incident. UCF sent out an email alert stating UCF PD will increase patrols on campus. They also stated counselors are available Monday through Friday for anyone who wants to talk about the incident. Nightly News would like to share our condolences with the families and friends who have been affected by this tragedy.
Following the tragic death of Michael Namey, UCF is working to make CPR classes more accessible to students. We'll find out why UCF is offering 3 free CPR classes.
Plus, some students are receiving parking tickets and they're not happy. We'll find out why some students are being ticketed in the park and ride lot.
UCF is offering CPR classes in October because last week Michael Namey suffered a heart attack in a classroom. Now UCF is trying to raise awareness for CPR and automatic external defibrillators, or AEDs. Nightly News tells us why one student values every second after he tried to save someone's life using CPR.
Every single second counts. 60 seconds can mean the difference between life and death.
Manny Orozco says the timing of CPR can be the difference between life and death.
Have now doubled their chances of survival.
This week, UCF President John Hitt announced the university will be offering 3 free CPR classes due to the tragedy last week. During the classes, students will learn how to perform CPR and at the end will be CPR certified. But that's not the only skill students will learn during the class. When students attend the class, they are also taught how to use AEDs. But do students know where AEDs are located on campus?
I don't know.
Not at all, no.
No, I do not.
I really should. I'm trained in CPR, but I don't.
When looking for an AED in the Nicholson School of Communication building, we were unable to find one. Nightly News reached out to Chad Benet from News and Information, and he said UCF has AEDs in some buildings and that police carry them in their cars. Benet also mentioned UCF is working to put more AEDs around campus. And Orozco says he hopes there will be a greater awareness for CPR and AED training after what happened.
But it's important that you have all the tools, that you have the knowledge of being able to do CPR, being able to give the breaths, and being able to use an AED machine properly.
October 16th, there will be a vigil held at Lake Claire for Michael Namey, and UCF will hold CPR training classes throughout the year for $19 per class.
Did you know you need a parking permit to park in the park and ride lot next to the softball field? Some students didn't, and now they're fighting back against the parking tickets they got this semester. Mariah Nava spoke to some of these students and tells us why they think the lack of signs are part of the problem.
Chris Carson was leaving the park and ride lot next to the softball field when he saw people getting tickets for not having a permit.
I was kind of shocked that you needed a permit to park in the grass. Actually, like 2 weeks before that, I had asked if you needed a permit to park there to one of the parking attendants, and he said you didn't. So I thought it was kind of weird that I was told one thing and then 2 weeks later it kind of changed.
Parking and Transportation Services have given out about 30 parking tickets in that lot since it became available in the beginning of the semester. But some students are saying they had no idea they needed a permit because the signs aren't very clear.
No, there's no signs around here. Nothing that would indicate that if you don't have a permit that you'd be ticketed.
Parking and Transportation Services says permits are required in all of the lots, and this one is no different.
Certainly, if students feel like they weren't aware that permits were necessary in that lot, we'll take another look at the advertising we put out, and we'll take a look at whether more signage is needed.
Other lots on campus have clear signs letting students know permits are needed, and most of them have a meter that lets you buy a daily pass.
I do like the park and ride. I do think they should have it, but I think there should be some kind of incentive to use it, whether that be not requiring a parking permit or even having a reduced cost parking permit would be a good idea as well.
Until Parking Services says otherwise, students should expect they need a decal when they use this park and ride lot. In Orlando, Mariah Nava, UCF Nightly News.
As for those who have already gotten tickets for this lot, they can try to appeal the ticket. They will have to go through the normal appeal process, but it can be done online at parking.ucf.edu.
This week we've seen a lot of rain, and we'll find out what weather to expect throughout the rest of the weekend.
Plus, Mars is in the spotlight. NASA made a new discovery on the planet. Lindsay Gerzina tells how the UCF community is reacting to the findings.
We'll have an update on what we can expect throughout the rest of the week and weather.
But first, Lindsay Grazina explains a major NASA discovery and the impact it can have on the UCF community.
Monday, NASA scientists announced they found liquid water on the surface of Mars. The catch is it's only in certain places at certain times. Take a look at the black streaks in this picture. Those are sediment formations that have been formed by water. Scientists concluded that it is a briny water, or in other words, just really salty. The discovery has people wondering about the future exploration to Mars. Zoe Landsman is a grad student at UCF and has been funded by NASA programs in the past. She shared her thoughts about this breakthrough finding and what it means about the future exploration.
Gives scientists a really good idea of where on Mars we should search for life. Now we know, okay, these are the regions where present-day liquid water exists, and that's the best, that's our best shot of finding some example of life.
UCF has had staff and students work with NASA programs over the years, including the present Mars exploration, and it's likely UCF will have more opportunities with NASA in the future. And now we're going to bring everyone back down to earth and start talking about the weather. First, we're going to talk about Hurricane Joaquin. The hurricane Joaquin is in the Caribbean, making its way north. There's a lot of rain and wind. We do feel a little bit of the effects here in Florida, but not too much because it will be staying off the coast. There is some rip currents and wind, so just be careful if you go to the beach this weekend. You just want to pay attention to the flags and the lifeguards and make sure you have a safe, fun time outdoors. It will be going up the coast Monday. It should be near North Carolina, South Carolina. So if you're driving to work, be careful. There is flash flood warnings for that region. By Wednesday, it should be in the northeastern Atlantic, so it should be out of our way. Just be careful with raining going to work. That's the major problem. Now let's go on to the national radar map. In the northwest, there's a lot of rain and thunderstorms over in Montana, North Dakota region. There's a low pressure system kind of keeping some of that rain off of Colorado and Utah. Also thunderstorms near Texas. And like I said earlier, there is a flash flood warning in the North Carolina, South Carolina region and a little bit of Georgia. So just be careful with that driving. Just stay calm, stay indoors if it's getting to be too much rain. There is a low pressure system off the coast of Florida, which is why Joaquin will be staying off the coast and not getting too much rain here. So now on to the precipitation map of Florida. In Orlando, there's a 40% chance of rain. Tallahassee, Jacksonville, and Tampa are all at 20% chance of rain. And if you're headed down to Miami, 10% chance of rain. It should be a great weekend, not too much rain, if any at all. And now onto the temperature map of Florida. In Orlando, it's 81 degrees. Tampa, 79, similar in Tallahassee and Jacksonville, 78 in Jacksonville, 70 in Tallahassee, and Miami is 85 degrees. Now on to the 5-day weather forecast. Saturday, it's a high of 81, low of 69, 20% chance of rain, so it should be nice. Sunday, 83 with a low of 67. And the rest of the week, it should be very similar, mid-80s, low 70s. So that's all we have for weather. Brett, Matt.
Thanks, Lindsay. Moving on to week 4 of the NFL season, 2 former Knights are off to a great start. In sports, Brooke Savage tells us what these players are doing and show you some highlights from the games.
Plus, UCF men's soccer is hoping for a comeback at tonight's game. Brooke Savage tells us what the coach's plans are and what the team can do to improve for their next match.
Knights fans, I'm Brooke Savage with your sports update. This week we're going to look at football and soccer. The Knights football team has had a rough start to the season. With a loss against South Carolina, the Knights are still on the road playing Tulane in New Orleans Saturday. At the Monday press conference, head coach George O'Leary discussed some of the problems the team has been having.
Turnovers, missed tackles, and MAs. There's almost 2.5 times as many in the second half as the first half, and that's what's causing the problem. And then we have some young kids out there that have to learn that, don't worry about the setback, worry about the next play.
And now it's time for Knights in the NFL. We're going to look at two standout players, running back Latavius Murray and wide receiver Brandon Marshall. Latavius Murray had an all-star week against the Browns. He more than doubled his yards this season with 139 yards. Murray also had 26 attempts and a touchdown. The Raiders went on to beat the Browns 27-20. Murray and the Raiders will take on the Bears this Sunday at 1 p.m. And now on to Brandon Marshall, but he may question why we're even mentioning him this week after his lateral mix-up. He really held the Jets in the game. Marshall had 109 yards on 10 receptions. He was also the first to put points on the board for the Jets, but the Jets did lose to the Eagles 24-17. The Jets take on the Dolphins in London. You could catch the game Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. on CBS. After losing to a ranked FIU, the men's soccer team is looking forward to their game against SMU tonight. The Knights were aggressive and able to hold FIU to 0 in the first half, but the defense could not withstand FIU in the second. They allowed the Panthers to take 14 shots and let it in 2 goals. UCF is looking to make improvements on defending these shots. Head coach Brian Cunningham spoke after the game Tuesday night about how the team is going to regroup for SMU.
Another conference game. It's a good opponent. Very similar, like to pass the ball, like to get forward, and it's going to be an entertaining match, and hopefully we can kind of pick up the pieces from this game and just go back out there and try and do the right things over again.
Coach Cunningham also hopes the team is more proactive and takes home a win against the Mustangs tonight. Well, that's all the time I have for sports. Make sure to cheer on the Knights this weekend because there is a women's volleyball game, a men's soccer, and football game. Back to you, Matt.
Thanks, Brooke. UCF's football team may be having trouble scoring, but One Bar Downtown is scoring big with the customers. The Basement in downtown Orlando is offering free beer for all customers during Knights football games. That is, as long as the Knights remain winless. Jake Whitaker is the marketing director for the Basement, and he said attendance at the bar has been down after all the losses this season. And he hopes that this brings the fan back out to support the Knights.
Certainly not encouraging people to root against UCF. We're just trying to show solidarity with the football team, saying, hey, we're in this with you guys. We need a win.
Knightley looked into it, and no other bars are running specials quite like this one. The Knights' next game is tomorrow at noon against Tulane.
This week, the weather wasn't looking too good.
Lindsay, what can you tell us to expect for this weekend?
Well, the weather is supposed to be kind of mild and nice, so don't worry about it too much. Just make sure you go out and have a good weekend. It's supposed to be a low 60s, high in the mid 80s, not too bad. Not too much of a chance of rain, just a lot of rip current in the ocean. So if you go to the beach, be warned and pay attention to the warnings and the signs that the lifeguards have up for you. But other than that, Joaquin is supposed to be staying off the coast, so not too bad.
That's all we have time for now. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can always keep up with us during the week on our website at nightlynews.ucf.edu.
And if you've got a story idea you want to let us know about, send it our way. You can reach us at nightlynews@ucf.edu. Thanks for watching and have a good day.